In this video, I'm going to give you an assortment of tips and tricks that you can apply to your program of Overeaters Anonymous to help give you success. So there are just a few things I'm going to go down. I put a lot of these in their own separate videos, so please look in the description below to see if there's a specific video you would like to delve into and look at more. You'll also find here on my YouTube channel, I have some longer episodes and a lot of shorts of other things that I've talked about as they apply to addiction. So I hope that that is something also you will go and check out and things that can help you. Just know that anytime you go to any of those, you'll be navigating away from this playlist. So if you do want to continue to watch the rest of the videos in this playlist that specifically speak to the experience of Overeaters Anonymous, just be sure to navigate back here. So one thing I want you to remember is, one, that this program should not be something that breaks your life. Like, I understand you're going to be in a space where you're doing new things and applying new strategies and principles and new ways of thought. And that is always going to be a period of growth. And it's going to take some time and patience as you dial that in. When I say it shouldn't be something that breaks your life, though, I want you to listen to what I'm saying and be very sensitive to what I mean. This should not be something that requires you to totally redo everything you're doing. So, for example, if you have someone who's asking you to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, that's going to be so stressful that it's going to put some stress on your life that's going to make this a very undoable program for you. The best thing that you can do in order to keep this program as simple and doable as possible is to become very, very familiar with what the 12 steps are and understand what they are so you can detect very quickly what they are not. There are other suggestions your sponsor or other well-meaning people in the fellowship might make to you, but just understand there's a big difference between the 12 steps of addiction recovery, and that's where the promises are, and anything else that anybody can suggest for you to do. I didn't know that in the beginning. I just did whatever my sponsor said. I did whatever it was I understood the program to be. My first sponsor told me to go to 90 meetings in 90 days before she would even start with me on step 1. It wasn't something I could do. I was a few meetings in before I dropped out. This was many years ago. And so there have been other things that I've tried to do that didn't work out, that were really hard to do. But I didn't know that the 12 steps didn't require them. My sponsor did, or the fellowship did, or a program did. So get really familiar with what the 12 steps are so that you can easily detect what they are not. And when you come across anything that is not on that list, use it if it serves you, and then stop using it when it no longer does. So the other thing about breaking your life. So for instance, there are, a service is a really tightly held tenet of the 12-step program is service. It's a wonderful way to get out of your own head, to get out of selfish thinking, and to point every cell in your body towards something else besides your temptations with food. Service is wonderful. However, how you look at it, how you implement it, do it in a way that works with your life. So if you're trying to, let's say you're in a place where you have a food craving and you're trying to use service as a way to get out of it, don't think, okay, if you're in the middle of your workday, don't think I have to wait until I get home and then go to a meeting and then serve coffee there or whatever. If you are in a place where you're trying to get out of your head and you recognize the need to serve, be very present where you are and recognize where can you serve there in the space that you're in. If you're at work, you don't have 2 hours to take for your lunch break and go serve someone down the road. But maybe you can take a couple minutes. Maybe there's someone in your phone that you can send text to tell them something nice or to give them something they need. And if you are at home, maybe instead of trying to log on to a meeting somewhere to try to provide service, look in your immediate surroundings. Is there a child who's trying to get your attention and play a game with you? Is there a loved one who maybe you can make their favorite snack? There are lots of ways you can serve. Do the things that make sense and make this program work with where you are. Again, looking at step 11, this is another example. I don't know how far you are in your program yet. Maybe you haven't gotten this far. But step 11 is conscious contact with God. And so what you'll see sometimes as suggestions is like prayer and meditation and those kinds of things. But do things that don't require it to break your life. If you're trying to implement step 11 and maybe you have a sponsor who said, okay, now start reading from the big book for an hour a day and say prayers and journal and all these things for step 11, that's a whole lot. That's going to break your life. You don't have an extra 3 hours a day to do those things. But what do you have? What can you offer? What can you do in order to increase the intimacy in your relationship with your higher power? Can you set a timer and pray for 5 minutes? Can you read literature for 10? And maybe it's none of those things. Maybe your step 11 is going to look like whatever it is that makes you feel and know that there's a higher power on the other side of the conversation. What does that look like for you? Is it a book you read? Is it a walk you take? Is it a song you listen to? Find the things that work with you in your life as it is right now. This program should not be something that breaks your life and requires you to spend hours a day working a program. I've been in recovery for almost 4 years, firmly in recovery, because I've been in and out of 12 steps for over 15, but firmly in recovery, definitely on the other side of my recovery for a strong 3 years. And in this space, my step work each day, it takes minutes. That's how it works in my life. And it's so second nature to me now that, like, some of the things I spent a lot of time on in the beginning, like going to meetings, writing down my prayers and my inventories and stuff in the beginning while I was learning, and I was learning to be accountable, and I was learning these new ways of thinking and doing it. It's things I spent more time on in the beginning, but now it's so second nature to me that it doesn't. It's just minutes. And so another thing I want you to be aware of is recognizing that this program really is about feeling better. This is not and should not be a fight between you and the food. This is not something that you should chart with your success about whether or not you're eating certain things or not eating certain things. And this process is really the focus. You'll be best served if you put your focus on how you're feeling. Are you feeling better? Because for me, I thought my program was failing me for a really long time. I was doing the steps over and over again, but I wasn't losing any weight. And so I was very discouraged because I thought my program wasn't working. I trusted that if I kept showing up and kept doing the steps, it would eventually work. Someday I'd figure it out and have food neutrality. And I waited for 10 months, and it did come and it did happen. And there's a progression of events that happened during that time. But the thing is I wish I'd understood that that was not truly the marker of my success. Weight loss? Yeah, I wanted to lose weight. Yeah, I wanted to be at peace with food. But what was happening during that time, that 10-month period, was a series of miracles over and over again. I was finding emotional and spiritual relief in real time as I went. I didn't understand yet that that was the point of the program. I was working with sponsors who were not recovered. I worked with 4 different women across 18 months. It's very obvious and clear to me now that they were not recovered, and I can tell you that for sure for several reasons. We'll save that for another time. But so I was doing the best that I could with the resources I had, and I wish someone had told me then that if I could have here's what I will tell you. If you understand that this program is about feeling better and finding the ability to use your higher power as a way to bring relief to you in the moments that you need it, and you use your higher power for relief and calm and all of that instead of your addiction, you can have that experience in the next few minutes. Like right now, you could pause this video and have it between the time you pause it and the time you unpause it. Whenever it is you're listening to this video, between now and lunchtime, you can have the experience of recognizing something you're holding that hurts you and asking your God to take it. And instead of hurt, you will feel peace and relief. That is a miracle. It is a third party doing something for you that you have not been able to do for yourself. And when you experience that sweet miracle, you will come to, that is the first building block for you to build on, to say it happened now, it can happen again and again and again. That's what addiction recovery is this unraveling of this experience we have of we are in pain and we go to our addiction to feel better. This is going to rewrite that script so that you're in pain and you're asking your higher power to help you feel better. And you will quickly discover that your higher power can do that better, faster, and it will last way longer than anything that food ever gave you. And then from there, you'll find your way quickly to recovery. And if I'd understood that's what it was about, that one experience of having that happen one time, that is everything. That is recovery. Recovery is that repeated experience over time. And if you can understand that today, you can experience recovery today. Will you still have an addiction in 2 hours? You probably will still have an addiction in 2 hours, but you will have literally discovered the key to your addiction recovery, and it feels good. You keep doing that. You keep rehearsing that experience over and over again. You will be well on your way to recovery faster than you can think, because it's kind of like discovering that God is the better drug. You're in a place where you are emotionally and spiritually uncomfortable and you are looking for relief. Your drug isn't that good. Food isn't so good that it's going to make you want to hurt yourself. We don't do it because it feels good. We're doing it because we're trying to feel better. We are so uncomfortable with the pain we are holding that we are running to our addiction, even though it's going to hurt later. For a moment, it's going to give us some relief and peace, and we'll do whatever we have to do to find it. Once you realize that God does it better, faster, and it lasts longer, You'll recognize that he's a better drug and it will be fine. So knowing that that's what your program is about will allow you to chart your success in a different way. Don't chart it about the scale or what you are doing with your addiction. Chart it with, did I feel peace? Practice that over and over again and dial that in on how to feel that peace as you work the steps. The steps detail and describe, like that's what the steps are. They're giving you the blueprint of how to feel peace and to have peace on demand when you need it, and also to be resilient to pain. So you won't find yourself in a place where you even have to keep finding your way back to peace, back to peace, back to peace. As you institute these steps and implement them more fully on a daily basis, you'll find that you aren't so easily moved out of your peace. It changes your whole perspective on everything in your life, every relationship, every encounter, every thing that you were once felt so affected by. It's going to change your whole life, and it's a really beautiful way to live for real. Also, it's important to know, like, I love using this example. You'll have seen this probably in some of the other videos if you watch some of the other videos. I learned this in therapy a really long time ago, that like when you're like in therapy, they're like, okay, we're going to give you these skills to learn how to, manage conflict and better interpersonal skills or whatever it is. But also you have to understand that if you're in a place of like your nervous system is totally wrecked and you're in a place of fight or flight, like you're in crisis mode, those other skills, you can't use them. Your brain can't even access them. No, you have to apply a different set of skills to first get out of fight or flight so that you can be calm enough to then use other skills. So when you are in fight or flight, the only thing that matters, only thing is to feel better. And that's where we are in our addiction. We're in a place of fight or flight. We're in a place of crisis mode. We're in a place of trying to do like pain, emotional and spiritual pain management. We're just trying to find the thing that will help. Skills like how to eat better, exercise, whatever it is you have learned or practiced in your life, it doesn't matter in that space. You just have to get out of fight or flight. And that's what your higher power is amazing. Like our addiction has been really great at helping us in that way, but it gives, but then it takes. Your higher power will give and only give. He will not take anything away from you. And so when you move into that experience of fight or flight, and then you use your higher power to get you out of it, you'll be so calm. Like it works so much better and faster and lasts so much longer than the food that you will reach for it, and it just works really good. And then once you're calm, then you can apply skills, but you won't reach for the food anymore because you'll be calm. Let's see. Yeah, so this is really just a process of continuing to build trust with God over time. So right now you have a relationship of trust with your addiction because you've been practicing your addiction for a long time. That's just how it is. I know. I've been there. I have been there and lived there for a very long time. I had an amazing relationship of trust with my addiction. I knew what it would do for me. And when I needed that to happen, I went to my addiction. So now as you move into recovery, all it is now is an opportunity for you to build a new relationship with your higher power, that same relationship of trust. You built a relationship of trust with your addiction by letting that happen over and over again. It was through repetition. It's going to be the same way in your recovery process. As you move into this experience and really dial in and let God come in and provide that miracle for you over and over and over again, it's going to build your trust so firmly over time that without a doubt, you will know, wow, like no matter what's happening, no matter how I'm feeling, I truly am just one prayer and one miracle away from feeling better. And so the food thing isn't going to be an issue. It's going to be a thing of the past for you because you'll have found something that works so much better. Like I'm not in a place where I'm never choosing between God and food. I found out a very long time ago that food was counterfeit and worthless. It could not do for me what I needed to be done, not the way that God does it. And so I'm not choosing fast food. It's not even in the running anymore. So yeah, I also wanted to tell you that if you are going to work with a sponsor, please make sure to watch my video on how to choose a sponsor. But never leave your program in the hands of another human being, ever, ever, ever. You must make sure that you are familiar with the 12 steps and take responsibility for having the information you need to recover. Don't put your recovery in the hands of a sponsor entirely. Even if you work with a sponsor, read the Alcoholics Anonymous book or read the other literature. Get familiar with the steps. Do not rely on them to be the person giving you information. That is just going to become a horrible game of telephone. And one day, hopefully, you're going to be on the other side of recovery and you're going to be taking on someone to sponsor. And the last thing you want to do is take someone else's poor habits to put them into your life and then pass them on to someone else. Do the work yourself. Do not leave it in someone else's hands. This is your responsibility. And so I just can't stress that enough. Like this whole program should be the space that you share with your higher power. don't let a sponsor get in the way of that, and to be a gatekeeper for what belongs to you. And on that same note, please don't ever surrender entirely to a sponsor. I thought coming in that I had to surrender to a sponsor in order to show my willingness to surrender to God. I thought I had to do whatever my sponsor said to show my willingness to do whatever God said. And so I did, and I did not always work with safe women. I mean, a lot of times, not a lot of times, but like I have had experiences where my sponsors, none of which who were recovered, by the way, they were asking me to do things that shut down my program and that stalled me out. And I think I would have recovered faster if I had been working with someone who was recovered. But I also think I would have recovered faster if I hadn't become so dependent on my sponsor as my higher power. I didn't do that on purpose, but there have been key times in the relationships I've had with these women that I recognized, like I was getting it backwards. I was letting them be the gatekeeper. But as I leaned more fully into the warmth and power of my relationship with my higher power, and sometimes dared to do things different than what my sponsor said, I just learned really heavily that this is really just an experience that is between you and your higher power. The other thing that I will add to that too is that if you are using a sponsor and you get uncomfortable, don't worry about dumping a sponsor. That is fine. Like, this is your program, this is your journey. Don't ever get so tied up in something in a relationship that doesn't feel good or that doesn't feel safe or that you have questions. Like, just let it go and move on. If the person is recovered, they will easily let you go because they recognize there's no room for their ego in your journey. If they don't, if they're resistant, if they're unkind, if they're combative, if they're controlling, if they're belittling, run away. That is not someone you need to put your recovery. You should not be working with somebody like that at all. I also want to tell you, let's see, yeah, I guess I've kind of covered everything in the other videos below. Please take a look around. Also, I will point you in the direction of just this YouTube channel. I'm always posting additional videos here and shorts and those kinds of things that you can use as resources. And yeah, and I'll continue to add things to this playlist as other questions come up as well. Thanks.